Tonight on the A Zone, we will talk about the Firepower United intro pistol match, and we'll answer some listener questions about tactical shooters and about how to review your own match footage to figure out what to work on. So first up, I think we'll talk about the intro pistol match, and we can kick that right over to Calvin to start with, being named after him.
Hello.
So
So
tell us
the
about how that went.
it went pretty well. I think this was all of our first times actually running a match, right? So Matt and Connor, both y'all were there. It sold out pretty quickly, which was nice. Um, the range that hosted us, they pretty much accommodated us in every way possible. So all we had to do really was get people out and then actually run the match itself. We had you guys at ROs, and then we also had Malin, and then also James Leffler. What's Malin's last name?
Hall.
I, Hall. That's right. So we had some help. We had a pretty good turnout. We even had some people coming from Houston, and then I think someone from Oklahoma somewhere as well.
Yeah,
So it was
Oklahoma
kind of
City.
cool to have like people, Oklahoma City. Yeah, so it's cool to have people like coming from all over the place to our match, and we had a pretty mixed group as far as skill level. You had some guys who were like completely brand new, and then some others who have actually shot matches before, whether it was an outlaw match or USPSA or IDPA. So it was overall a pretty good time, and I'm looking forward to do it again.
Yeah, I definitely had fun too. So Matt was obviously one of our volunteer ROs who we couldn't have run the match without. So what did you think of how it went, Matt?
I think it was good, like having a mixed bag of whoever was there. I mean, we had some people that did do some competition before. Some people it was their very first competition, or like other dudes who were just trying to like dip their toe into just even moving around and shooting. So helping them out with getting started in something before maybe they take a class was really good experience.
Yeah, I agree. I was actually so for those that don't know, we split our RO group up into the two squads that we had. And so we had I think 3 ROs per 10 shooters on each squad. So
Three and
obviously
two.
Yep, that's right. So obviously safety was the main concern, and I was really impressed. At least on the guys that I watched, I saw one safety violation, and it was an extremely minor break of the 180, and we just like told him about it after his run, and he took to the instructions super well, and from there on out everyone was good, at least on the two squads that I was on. So I was super. Long story short, I was super impressed with everyone who was there. They listened during our safety briefing and seemed to take it to it pretty quickly.
Yeah, we had the same thing. We had one guy who also uh, broke the 180 by a little bit, so we told him, what he did wrong and how to pay attention for that next time. But
Yeah.
as far as the match goes, not everything was perfect.
Hmm.
I think the most obvious one was the time management. We probably spent more time than we needed to talking, and it kind of held us back a little bit.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement there. It definitely ran a little bit more into the afternoon than we wanted. But that's okay. We know better for next time now. I think also I think we had a pretty good, as far as like the stages and the difficulty of the stages go. I think we had a pretty good like baseline set for the difficulty there, because the targets were pretty much like typical level 1 USPSA distances, but we took a lot of the partials down. I think that suited the average competitor there pretty well. They were like everybody could hit every target with no time restrictions. So from there, it was just them, getting used to the game.
So you're saying we should do 50-yard head boxes next time, surrounded by no shoots?
Hey, I'll miss those myself. But yeah, I think we could maybe even toss in a couple more partials next time, but I don't think we'd want to overdo it. I think we were pretty close to perfect at the last one. And I also think the stages were really fun. I think we can give a shout out to the XMG guys because we just kind of mooched off a couple stages from the previous day's like full blown USPSA match, and so they've been setting up some really fun stages there. So all we did was kind of like take some partials down and reuse their stages almost completely, and they were a lot of fun.
Koi, as someone who was watching from like the outside, what did you think?
I'm sad that I did not get to shoot it.
You should come up next time. We had guys from your
I know. I was gonna say, you guys make me fucking feel bad. Oh, we had people from Houston except for our homie that moved down there.
You should carpool with them next time.
Yeah, I think to be fair, I don't know if we formally invited Koi, so that might be on us. But it got lost in the mail. Sorry, man. Well, all right. I think overall the match went super good, and we are planning on doing another one shortly. So if that's something that would interest you, and you're in the Texas vicinity, then maybe keep an eye out for that. And we're going to try and make obviously the improvements that we got as far as feedback goes. So it should be even better next time. And did you guys have anything else to go over about the intro match? Or are we all good?
Nope.
I think that's it.
Cool. All right. So next up on the agenda, I think we're just going to hit on a couple listener questions. So first up, we got this listener question. Why is it bad to be a tactical shooter? And I think we're not necessarily saying that it is bad, but that was the question that we got. And so I think we're going to kick this one over to Koi to start with.
Okay. I guess we'll make me the bad guy first. So when I think of a tactical shooter, just so that I'm making sure that we're talking about the same thing, I'm thinking of the guy that's like 5'11" shirt, cry pants.
Could maybe be part of the question is like, what is a tactical shooter? Because it could just be someone that likes to go practice for like from like a concealed carries perspective, but doesn't compete. Or it could be like your average like mall ninjas. Like I think maybe should we put a loose definition around what we're talking about as a tactical shooter to start with?
I'm done with it. So when I think of tactical shooters, and this is probably like the shooting version of being racist, but I always call them Timmys, right?
Yep.
I'm thinking of like guys that wear like ankle high or higher boots because you need that what do you call it, heel stability for your 400-pound plate carrier wearing mall ninja setup.
Yeah, so I think when I think of tactical shooter, I think of guys that are usually guys that are into it and they go out and practice, I guess, but guys that don't compete, they're more doing it for like the self-defense, home defense, concealed carry aspect of it. And I think if I had to put a definition on it, at least in my mind, it would be like those dudes, you know.
That's interesting because when I think of tactical guys, I think of like SOF and like Delta, like the team dudes. Like,
oh yeah, I think those guys definitely fall into that category. I guess I wouldn't want to limit it to self-defense. More like military or law enforcement also falls into. I guess at the end of the day, they are defending themselves. But definitely different context. But I agree with that.
Oh, I was joking.
That's amazing.
Oh God.
Writing this down right now.
Jesus.
Calvin and Connor hate the military and
know.
police.
Oh Jesus. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna cancel this recording. We're gonna start over. No. I don't think we haven't talked any crap, at least yet. I think the guys that are the military dudes definitely fall into the tactical shooter category, and I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way.
So, not jokingly, something you said, I think is is why some people might think tactical shooters are bad. So I mean, I think we generally have roughly the same answer as far as like what does being that guy entail, and I think being that guy also entails. So it's kind of interesting, right? If you were to like go Google this, like what are tactics? What do we do in a sport? Like we practice specific techniques towards doing something, and that thing is like shooting really fast and accurately. You could even say we apply tactics that are contextually relevant to competitive shooting, which are not the same tactics you apply um, for defensive or military operations. I think it's the guys that hide behind like defensive and military operations as a be all end all, and then be like, well, I shot two mic, or I shot like a 10-second build drill because you're accountable for all your shots.
Yeah. And I think that kind of touches on it for me too, where it's like if someone asks me why is it bad to be a tactical shooter, I would say it's not. But it's more like the type of person who will get crushed at either a competition or some drill, or just get crushed by his friend that shot matches before or something, and then we'll say, well, yeah, but you would get killed on the streets doing that or some crap like that, you know. And so it's like that's the type of people that I think has the negative connotation. But I don't think like being a tactical shooter inherently has a negative connotation, at least for me.
Yeah, and in their defense, like a real tactical guy, like one of the team dudes or whatever, they have to be good at so many different skills. They can't devote the same amount of time that we can purely to shooting performance. They gotta learn how to swim, drive cars, run, climb mountains,
Jump out of airplanes, yeah.
scuba dive. I mean, they have to be decently good at all of those, in addition to being decently good at shooting. Versus we can devote all of our time, our spare time, to just one particular thing.
So it's funny, right? I don't know that I've ever met a guy that does all those things that falls into the category. It's always the guys that don't do all those things. Right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so the
I agree with
stereotypical
that.
bad shooter is the guy who doesn't do any of those things.
Yeah, and I think like you touched on, like getting pretty good at all those different things. Like if you get even mediocre at anything, you realize how much effort it takes to get like decent at something. Like you realize like, oh wow, insert activity here. It doesn't matter what it is, but like to get pretty good at it, it takes like a substantial amount of effort. So yeah, I think the guys that are pretty good at like 50 different things definitely understand what it takes to get good at something. And so they're not just going to like hide behind the tactics.
So you would separate like real tactical people and then like IG tactical people.
Maybe it would fall in. I don't know. Maybe
What are you
that's
talking
where
about,
the line
Calvin?
would
What's
fall.
their at?
Yeah.
What's
But
their at,
like,
Calvin?
yeah, tag them. But I think, man, I think for me it more comes down to attitude than like the type of clothes they're wearing, or like the type of gun they're shooting, like if they have a SRO or an RMR on their gun, or it's more like the guys that want to get good at shooting, maybe they're more into the tactical style shooting, or they care about like hiding behind things instead of just hosing targets in competition. But like if they care about getting good at shooting, they have a very different attitude. Whereas the guys that like you mentioned, like hide behind the tactical thing, they're like, they don't care about getting good at shooting, they just like kind of work on the tactics stuff, if you can even call it working on it. So I think just like the effort and the focus that they put into what they're doing is kind of where the line would fall for me. And if you think about it, like as far as the tactical guys go, to get good at shooting, or to be like, I guess, good enough at shooting in that context, you really don't have to actually be that good at shooting. Like you have to be like competent at shooting, and then like I think the actual tactics start to matter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean,
Like
there's a
it's
guy
kind
I
of a
know on.
stereotype, but like it is true. If you can shoot really fast but you don't like hide behind a wall, then you'll probably get shot. So like, at a certain point that stuff does matter, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, one of my buddies, he's a Dallas SWAT guy. He's a B class carry optics shooter, and he'll basically, from what he tells me anyway, he'll basically dunk on the entire SWAT team when it comes to shooting.
Yeah,
As
and I think that
carry
just
out this
goes
B
to
class.
I think that just goes to show like B class is pretty firmly in the middle of the road as far as competition goes, but like it does take like actual practice and skill to get to B class in USPSA.
I mean, even Frank Proctor in interviews said that he wished every Green Beret got up to a B class level in shooting. That would
Yeah,
make them so much better. I was like, wow, that means there's a whole bunch of them below that.
yeah. And I mean, if you think like the vast majority of people when they started shooting USPSA were not in B class. So I mean, like it kind of makes sense. It's like if you haven't shot competition regularly, it's going to be hard to like just land in B class.
That's true. I imagine most people watching this are probably like the best shooter in their friend group. And if they've never shot competition before, you shoot a lot, you'll probably end up in C class initially. That's where I was. I was the guy who shot a lot and trained a lot, and definitely my ego was broken when I classified as a C class for my initial
Yeah,
classification.
yeah, for sure. I remember the first USPSA match I shot, and like shooting the classifier and then looking up what percentage that score was. I was like, oh my gosh, that means someone did like literally twice as good, which is just it was mind blowing at the time, but it's also motivating. It's pretty cool.
Really, I was really depressed because I had watched every single Magpul video and like all the YouTube stuff. I've shot all the tactical response stuff. I watched everything. I was like, man, I'm a fucking badass. And
I think it
crushed at my
like opened my eyes for what's possible. I was like, you've got to be kidding. Someone did that twice as fast and they shot more alphas than I did. It's like I was like, oh my god, that's crazy. And so that was what was fun for me. I was like, well, if they can do it, I can at least approach that level with a lot of work. Maybe not actually get to the top, but yeah, so I think for me, in summary, it's not bad to be a tactical shooter. It's just like some of them have kind of a annoying take on things. Whereas I'm sure I mean, we know a lot of people that are competition shooters that are kind of annoying. So
It's probably in both camps. You
What's
have
their
like
at, Connor?
yeah, hold on, I'm gonna write down their Instagram names.
It's like the bottom 10% are the most vocal, right? So those are the
Yeah.
ones you hear about the most, or you hear from
Yeah.
the most.
Yeah, so
And
I
those are the
definitely.
guys who, they may go out, but they don't have any metrics that
Mhm,
they try to achieve.
mhm,
So they're just kind of throwing rounds and training.
yeah,
There's air quotes if you're don't have video.
yeah. And I think like there's a number of guys that I don't know what they would consider themselves, but I think that kind of fall a little bit more towards the tactical side of things that also shoot USPSA with us pretty regularly, and they do pretty well, and I know they've grown a lot as shooters by kind of straddling that line. So I think if you're a tactical, or if you think of yourself as a tactical guy, you should definitely give it a shot. And we would definitely, I know all the USPSA guys would love to have you out there.
There's quite a few high-profile people who came from the military side in special
Hmm.
operations that are quite accomplished in USPSA.
Yeah, which is really cool.
What you laughing about, Coy?
I was just thinking about the ones that go so far as to really give back to the community and they run their own match.
Oh God, it almost got almost got political, you could say. Not gonna name names, but
What's their at, Connor?
yeah, you know what? Screw it. Everybody already knows their name. Their name is Tony Cowden. But we're going there. But don't be like him, and then you're more than welcome to shoot USPSA.
I mean, USPSA lets me shoot USPSA, so you
You're
can't be
right.
like him to shoot
Yeah,
USPSA.
he's still more than welcome to shoot USPSA, which is. Oh man, we're going down one of those rabbit holes, guys.
We started off so good too.
I know. God. All right. Well, I think I have beaten that to death. Do you guys have anything more to say about tactical shooters and why you hate them?
Nothing to add, Connor.
I think we're good.
Look,
We're
just
just-
be friends, say
we're
hi,
just-
try the other thing out,
the-
and just try to have a good time. That's how it all
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, we're just
the
playing,
funniest thing is,
obviously.
Connor, you have a family member who's in special forces, right?
Yeah, and I'm not gonna call him out because I don't know. Obviously didn't ask him, and he probably doesn't listen to this, so it wouldn't matter anyways. But as words of encouragement, he's a quite good shooter, and he's never shot USPSA before. And I keep trying to get him to come out, but he's super busy with his job and everything. But if you're that type of person, you might surprise yourself by how much fun you have, and I think you'll definitely grow as a shooter in that way. And he's like exactly the type of person, like you mentioned, where they have to be pretty good at like 80 different things. So it's like you can hardly blame them for not being the best in the world at like one tiny little slice of their job. It's like duh. But so I think and he's definitely a fun guy to shoot with, and I don't know if he would consider himself a tactical guy, but I think most competition shooters would consider someone like that a tactical guy.
I totally forgot about that angle, but I'm not going to open up that can of worms again.
Yeah, so I think in short, it's not bad to be a tactical guy, to answer that listener's
just
question.
Bad to be dumb. And
Yeah, it's bad to have a bad attitude or be like dumb, yeah. And that's not exclusive to tactical guys. All right. Hopefully everyone didn't stop listening already. But so
Well, great. Now
next-
you made them not stop listening.
I know they all hate me. But our second listener question for tonight is actually a really good one related to specifically to competition shooting. And so this was, how do you analyze your match footage after shooting a match, and specifically with regards to figuring out what to work on next? And since no one's speaking up, I'm gonna kick it to Coy again.
Shit. Okay, so here's the move, guys. I know everyone knows this, so if you say that you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm calling you a liar ahead of time. First off, any stage of the match that wasn't a 10-hit vector stage, you're not posting that shit. So 10 and up only, and then you just like don't show any targets, and just do everything where everything lands perfectly. Your draw is on point, your reloads are snappy, and there's like 1-for-1 on steal, and then you just like that's the only thing you watch. You don't
and
watch
spicy splits. You don't want to
Exactly.
have trigger freeze in there.
exactly. Or yeah, actually no, that's perfect. Yeah, no, I'm 100% kidding. Though
Well, you
Uh,
you can only post your good stages and still analyze the other ones, because that's totally what I do. not showing everyone the bad ones.
so it's something actually that has changed over time for me in terms of what to look for when watching footage. I would say I would always want to look at the bad things, but I think what's rough sometimes is you don't know what's bad. So it helps a lot of times when I am watching my stage footage, I automatically go look for the guy who whipped my ass, and I look for his footage too, and I see what's different. Because there's a lot to pick on, honestly, and I would say that. So it's like no secret. The four of us are like M, and Matt's recently GM soon. It's no secret that what you work on changes as you get to the tippy top, and so then it becomes like a completely different thing. We're looking for like tenths on every single thing versus if you're that C-class shooter new to the sport, you're not looking for tenths. You're looking for literally 10 seconds. So I look for really, again, the guy that whipped my ass, like everything that might have gone wrong kind of between there. And it could be a million things, and they'll surprise you too. It could be you stood a little like in the wrong stance, like your shoulders were a little angled off or something stupid like that. And it might look like, are you telling me that you look for your splits? Yeah, but for a kind of nuanced reason. Like, was I standing stupid and that's why I couldn't shoot fast? You know what I mean? Stuff like that. It's not always so straightforward to say like, yes, what I'm looking for is that my gun stops perfectly. You know what I mean? Even though I am obviously looking for that. It's it's like super contextual, and I think that's the other the magical allure of like USPSA. The shooting challenge can be very varied, so the things you look for always change. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that totally makes sense. All right, Matt, what about you? When you're analyzing your match footage, what do you look for?
It's usually whatever big ticket items I usually fault on. So let's just say I step in the wrong way, or like instead of just going with the lead foot, I do a cross step. So like any kind of like odd habits that I've had previously in the past, I look for that. Or like I didn't take enough time to aim on that small mini popper at 30 yards or something like that. Whatever big ticket items. Now, let's just say you do have something similar between you and the top guy. That's when you can start looking into the smaller details of like I am losing a tenth of a second here, a tenth of a second there, and that's why I lost 1 second to whoever the top guy on the stage was.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Calvin?
So mine's much simpler since my skill level has kind of diminished a little bit. Um, and I think this will help basically everyone from like D class and up. So what I look for is number one, transitions, and seeing how much of a delay there is from when I bring a gun onto the target and then when I pull trigger relative to the target difficulty. That is one thing. So especially on closer targets, if there's a delay in when I move the gun to the target and when I pull trigger, which happened a lot last match because I was so like I guess
You were pretty out of
sure.
it.
Yeah, I was really out of it because I hadn't shot in so long, and there was like basically there were some like 5 yard targets where I'd bring the gun over and I'd take a split second to confirm my sights and then pull trigger twice, and that really stuck out to me, and I can see that being even more amplified with shooters with less experience. So that is like one thing, and then also the transitioning off of targets. Um, Especially newer shooters to competition, they'll want to stay and look at the target after them shooting at it, and that costs you time. I've seen some guys shoot like 2 shots and then wait like a full second before transitioning to the next target. That's an extreme example, but if you look for things like that, just transitions alone, that can save you seconds per stage.
Yeah, I think transitions are a big one that I overlooked when I was newer, and
And
they really
there's
add up.
oh for sure, and they're super obvious in first-person view as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, I think I think you all kind of touched on this, but I definitely look at like, okay, what was my time on this stage, and what was the time of the person that won the stage, or maybe someone who did substantially better. If I can find footage for one of those, and then I try to see like where did they pick up the time, and usually like you guys mentioned, it's a bunch of tenths added up throughout the whole stage, but you can kind of start to that usually puts a magnifying glass on where you need to go faster. After that, I look at did I have any like scored errors on the stage, and so this one you got to be careful with because there's a difference between like a little error you made on a stage and like a trend of repeated errors over the course of many matches. But I do like to look like, let's say I had a like maybe a delta or even a miss or a no shoot penalty or something like that. If you can look and figure out, okay, what did I do to cause that? And it may just be some fluke thing that you don't want to get stuck on, but I like to see what it was. Um, Next up, I look at transitions, like you mentioned, and it's the exact same thing you mentioned. It's like, was I shooting when I got aimed on the target? And then as soon as the second shot or however many shots fired, was I moving the gun off of it? That's a big one. Also, assuming I think most people probably take third person video, I look at things like having my knees bent and stuff. I think I'm a little better at it now, but like a year ago, I had a major problem doing like the elevator thing, like run hard, come into position, stand up straight, shoot, bend down, push off. And so I try not to do that anymore. And that's super obvious in third person video. And yeah, I think those are the big ones. Like if you can look at that stuff, you're well on your way to improving your scores a lot.
Oh, another one is having your gun up named, ready to fire as soon as you enter a position.
Yep,
That's
that's a
another
good one
I think
too.
super obvious.
Yeah, especially on third person. Well, first person too, I
First
guess.
person too.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of those things kind of fall more into like what are your old habits.
yeah, that's a good point. You have to kind of know yourself, like you just mentioned, like what are your bad habits, and kind of try to catch yourself doing them. So I think kind of along these lines, one thing that I would caution people not to get too wrapped around the axolon are, and I think this is a common mistake, and I was guilty of this too, is what your stage plan was. So I think a lot of people will look at it, their run, and then look at the guy that won the stage's run, and they'll be like, oh, he had a different stage plan than me. That could be one of two things. He could have had like an actually better stage plan and you could have been doing something like dumb and inefficient, or he could have just had a slightly different stage plan but just executed everything better, which is more often than not the case. So I think like when I was newer, I would get hung up on that. I'd be like, oh my god, that was such a dumb stage plan. I was like, why did I do that? Like the guy who won the stage did it differently. Like that was so stupid. In hindsight, most of the time it probably wasn't me doing an actually super stupid stage plan. It was just me sucking at shooting is the reason I didn't, I got crushed by, you know, Dozzy or insert local guy here that always beats us. So I think I would just caution people to not get wrapped around the axle on what your exact stage plan was compared to someone else.
Focus should always be on you.
I've got a stupid tangent question. Since it occurred to me literally in the last 5 seconds that we're all people that have gone and shot a nationals event now, so we have some skin in the game. I would say, do you guys even ask people what their stage plans are? Like seriously anymore? Would it even bother you if you never heard anyone's stage plan anymore?
Not as much anymore.
Not
I do
really.
still ask people sometimes, but I don't let it influence me as much as I used to.
If any,
I've
go
just
for it.
I've completely stopped asking, and it's so weird because it used to be like spend half of my time doing the exact thing you said. Yeah, don't get wrapped up around this. I used to do so much of that. It's like go nut hug the GM guy and be like, please help me.
Yeah, and that I think that's like I think everyone does that. So it's probably like one of those things you just have to experience to realize that it's dumb. But hopefully we can help a couple people avoid that.
Yeah, it bit me in the
Um,
ass with the regular jacuzzi.
golly, what does that guy know?
That was a big mistake on my part.
Yeah, that I know if you we won't go into it again because if you're curious, go listen to the previous episode. But that was a perfect example of like the right stage plan for someone else might not be the right stage plan for you. So I think like to Koi's point, it really would benefit you to come up with a stage plan for yourself that's not influenced by other people. And then maybe if someone has something that you think is like if a major oversight on your part, something that you missed, then maybe change your stage plan. But usually going with like your natural instinct is a pretty good way to do it. All right. Well, do you guys have anything else on analyzing match video or stage plans, I guess?
I think it's a wrap.
Cool.
So, I mean, like something you could possibly do for your own self review is like list 3 things that were good about your stage run, and then 2 things that you want to improve. That way, you kind of keep track of what's going on.
Ooh, that's smart. That's advice I wish
Yeah,
I took.
that's a good point. And I think to kind of expand on that, like look for like instead of just like honing in on one stage where you do that, look at like 2 or 3 matches where you have 10 to 15 stages to look at and look at like, okay, what keeps popping up on the things I want to improve list? Because like everybody just runs up to a target and has like a bad grip and shoots like alpha delta. So like that happens to almost everybody at least occasionally. You don't necessarily want to like, I mean, grip is almost always a good thing to work on, but you don't necessarily want to hone in on like one almost random mistake. You want to look for trends.
Cool.
I've got another tangent, and I know that we're all about this. We're all about this, so you guys will will support what I'm gonna
Let's
share.
hear it.
It's related, I promise. It used to be popular to say first-person view wasn't valuable. I disagree with that 1,000%.
It gets way more likes on Instagram, so I agree. It's very valuable.
Does it really?
I don't know.
I don't
I get
think
like
it does.
I get like 12 likes on all my stuff anyway. So
I don't know.
If
Three
you're
of
not
us
an
have
expert
less
in
than
that.
20,000
It's like-
followers.
It's
so-
like your mom. It's like your mom and her friends.
No, seriously. They're really sweet.
USPSA footage, regardless of first or third person, gets like no likes on Instagram.
Yeah,
You don't do this for the clout.
yeah, frowny face. That's okay. But yeah, I think that is a good point. If you can get first and third person, I don't think one could be like a substitute for the other. It's way easier to get third person though. But if you do have some way of getting first person, it can definitely be helpful. I probably isn't worth going out and dropping like $300 on a camera or something unless you just want to. Like there's better ways to get better, but it definitely is beneficial.
It's supposed to be enabling people, Connor. $300 is dropping the bucket for a competitive shooter.
Well, you're right.
I mean, how much does like a Cerakote job and slide cuts and all that stuff cost nowadays? I mean,
That'll
300
actually
bucks.
get you likes on Instagram. So
Yeah.
Police
No,
training
but,
one or a brand new first person camera. Come on, which one do you want?
But for realsies, I think the higher your skill level, the more beneficial first person video becomes. I think when you're very first starting, you can get a lot done with third person, and it's not as important to have first person video
yeah, I totally agree with that.
because everything is just so much more obvious when you're new and slow.
Yeah. And since I think because our podcast is maybe targeted at these guys a little bit more than the guys that actually are good.
Wow, are you just telling your audience that we suck?
Damn it. It's more that we suck, but so if you're new to USPSA and you're like, how are you guys getting third person video? Just like introduce yourself to someone that's not right behind you in the shooting order and hand them your cell phone. I've had maybe once or twice where someone says no, and it's usually because I didn't realize they were a couple people behind me. So like everyone's super friendly about that. So don't be afraid if you're new
And
to
if you
USPSA.
feel bad, like offer to record for them as well. So you don't
Exactly, yeah.
become a leech.
But here's the trick. You fuck theirs up horribly, so they don't get any benefit, and then they'll
Record
be
it
like,
in vertical
like,
mode,
I'll-
grandma
and
style.
then you're like, hey man, I'll record for you. They're like, no, fuck this guy. I'm never letting him record me. And then you're off the hook forever.
Yeah. You might not make a lot of friends that way, but all right. I think we pretty much did this one completely. Y'all have anything left?
I think we're done for realsies this time.
We're
All right.
back.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Stay tuned for more exciting content.
Yay!
Nice.